So reviewing the new M4 iPad Pros is not an easy task. I've been very critical of the iPad, and I think a lot of its updates have been lackluster. That's why I've continued to use my 2018 64GB iPad Pro for the past 6 years almost. But finally, after more than 18 months without any updates to any iPads, we got a pretty big one. We've got a super fast M4 chip, tandem OLED displays, a new Magic Keyboard with function keys and a Force Touch trackpad, a new Apple Pencil Pro. There's a lot of hardware going on here, and in typical Apple fashion, they kinda nailed it. But it's just a little off. Let me explain why after a word from today's video sponsor. Whether you're getting one of the new iPads or using your existing one, today's video sponsor Anker has you covered. Their 8-in-1 hub stand offers both a convenient iMac-like stand and also 2 USB-A ports, 3.5mm audio, 100-watt USB-C charging, HDMI 2.0, SD card, and micro SD card slots. It features up to 70 degrees of base adjustment and 180 degrees for the iPad holder, giving you a ton of freedom of motion for viewing, drawing, or height adjustment. And it does all of this while cleaning up your desk setup, allowing you to integrate your iPad into peripherals without an ugly mess of wires. But if you're on the move, bring Anker's 6-in-1 USB-C hub. It provides HDMI for up to 4K 60Hz display output, 60-watt 5GB per second USB-C, a USB 3.0 Type A port, SD and micro SD card slot, and 3mm audio. With aluminum finish designed to match Apple's quality and durability, it's the perfect hub for iPad. Anker makes sure that you are going to get the best experience out of your iPad no matter which model it is. So if you want to learn more about the 8-in-1 hub stand and the 6-in-1 hub, check out the links in the description down below. Big thanks to Anker for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to it. Now, this review is a little different from how I normally do things because I completely missed launch week. I was traveling, and if you follow me on TikTok, which I'll have linked down below, you can see my unboxing of it just at my parents' house. But I spent the week with this iPad using it pretty much as it's meant to be. It was my travel companion. I brought it in the car. I brought it on a plane. I used it in a hotel room. And I really got to know the new iPad Pro. There's a lot of things I like. There's a lot of things that still need improvement, but the overall theme, you can skip the rest of the video if you want to, is that this iPad doesn't really do anything that I couldn't do before, but it's really, really nice. Yeah, it's a very weird situation, but let me back up. I picked the 11-inch iPad Pro. It's the only one that I bought in the base configuration with 256GB of storage because I wanted to try out the so-called cheapest iPad Pro setup, which by the way, is not cheap, because this thing sent me back $1,500 for the iPad, the Magic Keyboard, and the new Apple Pencil Pro. Now, I personally don't really have a use for the Apple Pencil Pro. I think it's really cool. The squeeze gesture for changing the brush tip, and the gyroscope for changing the angle of a brush, and also showing these shadows that Apple digitally recreated to show the device that you're using. I mean, this is a really well-engineered product, but quite frankly, it's not for me, because every time I try to draw something, it looks like a 7-year-old drew it. So yeah, I know my limits. But I did want to try it out because this is one of the main selling points of the iPad, and it's also one of the biggest sticking points because the new iPad Pros require you to completely refresh your peripherals. And that's one of the things that people loved about the iPad ecosystem is this keyboard is compatible with a wide range of devices from the original iPad Pro that even came out before the keyboard did, all the way through iPad Airs and the latest iPad Pros, well, up until now. But while it was a bummer to spend $350 on a new keyboard, Apple really did a good job with it. The function keys are phenomenal, the new trackpad is really nice, and the metal keyboard deck makes it feel a lot more premium. However, there are a couple of things that bother me about this new keyboard. Number one, the hinge mechanism is now made of metal, which is really high quality and looks extremely nice. However, I usually bring an iPad and a Mac, and if you stack these things together in a backpack, I'm just a little bit concerned about having this metal on metal contact. It's not really what you want. But the main problem I have is that Apple really hasn't fixed the most annoying feature about their Magic Keyboards, which is that it's super top heavy, right? You've got a big heavy iPad balancing above a thin and light keyboard. And what that means is when you use this thing on a soft surface like a comforter, it's gonna tip over. And even using this thing at the airport on my lap, it's not as convenient as a laptop. It's always gonna be tipping over if it's not on a table like this. So it's just a little bit less convenient. And I guess that kind of speaks to a lot about the iPad as compared to the Mac. And that's not something that Apple has significantly changed with this new generation. I found myself limited the same way I was back in 2018. And it's a shame because the iPad keeps getting faster and faster and faster. This new M4 chip is an absolute screamer. I ran it compared to my 2018 and my M1 iPad Pro, and it absolutely blows them out of the water. But when comparing the 2024 iPad Pro to a 2018 iPad Pro with a 6-year difference between them, you'll notice that yes, the M4 is faster, and that's good, but it's not like the 2018 is unusably slow. Now granted, I'm not pushing this thing as hard as it can go, and there are definitely people out there with iPad use cases that are a lot more intensive, but I don't think there's that many people that do insane high productivity tasks with iPads. To demonstrate this, I put out a poll and I said, hey, what do you guys use your iPad for? And an overwhelming majority of people said casual computing. And to be honest, that makes sense. That's kind of the whole point of the iPad. You go back to the 2010 keynote, it was supposed to be a halfway point between your smartphone and your laptop. But now, of course, your iPhone does 1,000 times more than it did in 2010, and your laptop runs the same chips as the iPad, so the iPad's kind of stuck in limbo. And reading through the replies, seeing what you guys do with these things, it really made me wonder, how many people actually need the features that the M4 iPad Pro offers? What is the actual percentage of iPad users that need more than what you can get out of an iPad Air or even the base model iPad? I'm genuinely curious. Leave a comment down below what you think. And during my week with it, honestly, the #1 thing that stood out to me was the screen. I mean, you compare a tandem OLED display to what you're gonna find in 2018 and even the mini LED iPad Pros, it's no question. This is the best display I think that Apple has ever made. I'm including MacBooks in that as well. Like, this is seriously a beautiful, beautiful panel. But it's not just OLED that makes this new display better than the old ones. Apple has significantly improved the pixel response time. If I slow down the footage here, you can see how the old iPad has some ghosting under fast movement, and that has been completely fixed on the new iPads. The screens are absolutely crispy. And trust me, I got to spend a lot of time checking that out because I had a travel day on Monday that did not go as planned. I'm on the way home right now. I'm gonna do an informal iPad battery test. It's 12:03 p.m. right now. I'm at 100% battery. I've got a bunch of movies lined up.
We want you to be safe.
Probably 6 to 8 hours of travel ahead of me, and I'm basically just gonna use this thing constantly. So let's see how it does. Things started out great. While we were on the tarmac and taking off, I used the iPad handheld to watch YouTube videos. A great benefit of the iPad, of course, being that you don't have to put them away for takeoff and landing. And once we were at cruising altitude, I popped it back on the keyboard to watch a movie. So 3 hours in, I'm down to 78% at the layover between my 2 flights. But after experiencing the less than ideal Magic Keyboard lap situation, I realized I was gonna be there a little while longer. Flight got delayed 2 hours. Lounge is full. At least I have iPad. What started as an innocent 30-minute delay ended up lasting 4.5 hours. But as I bided my time in the airport, over 5.5 hours into the test, I was still at 56% battery. Despite my misery, the iPad was a great companion. I was writing emails, using some split screen applications to take notes, doing some research, you know, a whole bunch of stuff. But at 8:15, 4 hours after my flight was supposed to depart, we finally got moving. And with the sun setting, we took off just in view of the massive storm system that had caused the 4-hour delay. Thanks a lot. But on the plus side, I got to enjoy some nighttime movie watching, and man, this display is phenomenal. But I had it on minimum brightness because this thing is insanely bright. You can basically illuminate the entire cabin. And after finally making it to my destination, after more than 11 hours of screen time, I was left with 17% battery. That's seriously impressive, and I really enjoyed using the iPad for that day, even if it wasn't the best day I've ever had, I'll be honest. But even still, at the end of it, I was kind of like, yeah, I could have done all of that on my 2018 iPad Pro. And maybe I would have had to plug in once or twice, or waited a little longer for things to load, but it's really just such a similar experience. I mean, heck, I could have done everything I did that day on the base model $350 iPad. So the weird part about this review is making it 3 weeks before WWDC, because we don't really know what Apple has planned in terms of new software features for this iPad. But at the end of the day, the problem that I have with the iPad continues to remain. And that is that it is a phenomenal piece of hardware that most people don't really need. The vast majority of iPad users are casual, and they're really, really great for those tasks. But all of the new exciting features get put up in these Pro models that are just hard to justify. So it puts me in a weird spot reviewing this thing, because on the one hand, it's not really for me. I don't have the use case that would justify this. But on the other hand, I think a lot of us regular casual iPad users want an OLED display, 120 Hertz, function keys on our Magic Keyboard, and this super thin and light design. But I know deep down that I don't need to replace my 2018 iPad Pro. I'm not really gaining functionality, I'm just gaining luxury features. But maybe that's okay, right? Maybe the iPad Pro can be a useful tool for a subset of its users, and just a nice thing that I like to have. Is that enough? Does that justify a $1,000 price tag? I don't know. I really don't. I have so many conflicting thoughts in this review. I'd really love to hear what you guys think. Does your use case justify an iPad Pro like this? I'm not saying that it's useless. I'm saying that most people probably don't need it. Do you agree with that? I'm very curious. I think we're gonna have to revisit this topic in about a month when we get iPadOS 18. That might change the game, or it might not. I guess you'll have to subscribe and like this video so that you can find out. And with that, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.